continuous flow of unwanted thoughts has become the real curse for human beings. Everybody is struggling to get rid of it, but nobody ever succeeds. The very effort to stop them makes them more and more forceful. Therefore, trying to stop your thoughts must be treated as trying to stop the natural functioning of your brain. It is just like trying to stop the natural functioning of your kidney, liver, and lungs. Therefore, the first point is never try to stop the flow of thoughts, because you will never be able to do so, and it would be also quite unnatural. Your mind is the greatest gift of nature, which has evolved through several generations, and then it could reach its present status. It can serve as a powerful tool if you can learn the art of using it as and when required, and putting it aside when it is not needed. Simply because you have not been able to learn it, your mind has started using you as its servant, and it has become your master. And when the mind starts playing the role of a master, it starts proving disastrous. And that is why your mind has become disastrous for you. A very short story. There had been a very famous king, and he had a very sincere and devoted servant. The servant was so much devoted that he even put his life at stake several times just to save the king. Just for the sake of the king, he even put his life in danger. The king had become overpleased with the servant. One day, out of his joy, he offered to the servant to ask for any big reward or prize. The king said that he was ready to give anything that he wanted to get. The servant told him in several ways that nothing else was needed. His love was too much for him. But the king kept on insisting, and on his insistence, the servant said, "My lord, you have given me everything, but I have the desire to become a king just for one day. If you are kind enough, kindly make the king of your empire just for one day." The king felt a bit disturbed. However, since it was a demand for just one day, he agreed. And he also agreed just because he had already promised. Now, on the orders of the king, the servant was enthroned, and he was declared to be the king for one day. However, you will be surprised to find that the first order issued by the new king was that the king, the old king, should be killed. The real king wanted begging for life, but the new king said, "I am the king, and my order has got to be obeyed." He insisted for the execution of the order, and ultimately the order had to be executed. The king was killed, and thereafter the servant continued to rule for several years. The message of the whole story is that if the servant becomes the master, disaster is bound to happen. In other words, it becomes disastrous when the servant becomes the master. Your mind can be the greatest tool, it can be the biggest asset if it remains your servant. But if it takes the role of the master, then the disaster and destruction is bound to happen. And that is what has been happening with the whole humanity. Your mind has become the master. And this is what has made your life miserable in several ways. And at this point, I would like to tell you that the only reason behind this situation is the simple fact that you have identified yourself with your body or with your mind or with your emotions. This identification with the body, mind and emotion is at the root of all the misery in your life. You have started treating your mind as yourself. You know as if you are your mind. It is in fact totally false. You are not the mind. Existential ignorance of this fact has led to the whole chaos in your life. This identification is totally false. It is totally wrong. If you manage to drop all the lies you have gathered within yourself, then this identification will start falling. And once this identification is no more, then your mind will become empty. It will start reflecting the beauty of the whole cosmos in place of reflecting the great disaster in your life. Now the $1,000,000 question arises as to how to get rid of this identification with the mind. And I want to tell you that the only source is the practice of witnessing or the art of observation without judgment. I will like to suggest a small practice for the same. Just sit down comfortably for 10 minutes and sit with eyes closed. Now start watching the thoughts coming into your head. With a little practice, you will find that thoughts keep on coming and going from outside into your head. They are just like guests coming and going on their own. Gradually, you will find that they are separate from you. This awareness of being separate from them is very revolutionary. It will mark the ending of the identification with the mind. This will mark the ending of your identification with your thoughts. And this is a very important and significant experience which will start a big change in your life. With a little more practice, you will start getting one more experience. Now you will grow the awareness that thoughts are not joined with each other. You will come to know that there is no chain of thoughts. In fact, one thought goes and the other thought comes. In this way, thoughts keep on coming and going. In between these two thoughts, a small space is created. It is just like a neutral space or a neutral gear is required for changing from one gear to another gear while driving a car. With gradual practice, you will find that the gaps or intervals between two thoughts are increasing and the gap is becoming bigger and longer. And I want to tell you that it is during these gaps, during these intervals, that you achieve a state of no mind. In this state of no mind, you experience the glimpses of great joy or bliss. It is in these gaps or intervals that the infinite or the supreme energy God is experienced. Once you get the taste of it, it starts increasing, and when it increases, then gradually the same becomes achieving the state of super consciousness or samadhi. In this way, by becoming an observer of your thoughts, by becoming a witness to your mind, you find that the thoughts start disappearing and you achieve the state of no mind. Now you become the master of your thoughts. And once you become the master of your thoughts, you can use the power of your mind the way you want it. It can become a great benediction for you. Thank you.